We're making a 9 patch so that you can get better at chain piecing. Lay out your 16 squares in a 4x4 grid. Fold your second column onto your first, matching right sides together. You're going to take it over to your sewing machine and then sew it on the right side using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You're going to sew these blocks together in a giant chain, leaving around a 1/4 inch of thread between each block pair. Now here's for the fun trick. You're going to take your third column of squares and just stack them on top of each other. Bring that stack over to your machine, take the first square on top and sew it onto your first row. Then open your second row, take that second square, fold it on top, and sew it onto your second row, and so forth. As you're adding squares, make sure that your right sides are together. Notice how there's thread connecting every single square. This is what is creating the giant chain. Now take your last row of squares, stack them on top of each other, take them to your machine, and complete that same process, adding the squares to each row. The first few times I did this, I like to take a picture of my block before I sew it together to make sure that all of the blocks are being placed in the correct spot so that I don't have to go pick things later. Now we're going to press our seams, alternating the direction each time. This will ensure that our seams nest or match together nicely. Take your top and bottom row and fold them on top of the middle rows and then pin them in place, making sure the seams line up. And after you sew it, if your seams don't line up perfectly, it's okay. Give yourself a little grace. You're learning a brand new skill, and it's gonna look beautiful no matter what you do. You're gonna sew together the 2 rows that you just pinned using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now you're gonna fold both sides on top of each other, nest those seams nicely, pin, and then sew them together. And technically you're not supposed to sew over your pins, but don't worry, we all do it. Finally, you're gonna press everything flat using lots of steam, and you're done! I think you deserve a sticker.